Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. We're going to talk about tech, we're going to talk about news, we're going to talk about layoffs, and the Wall Street Journal just laid a bunch of people off. Now, what's interesting is the people that they laid off were actually people that they were going to push into making video content. Yeah, that's kind of weird. So we're going to talk about this because it feels like nobody seems to know what to do when it comes to journalism. Right now, just everything is imploding. All these websites are imploding. We've been talking about that. We've been following it. You know, Geo Media especially, they've just been hastening their demise. People going out there and defaming children. Deadspin got sold off. I think Kotaku's probably going to get shut down or sold off here pretty soon. But the Wall Street Journal they laid a bunch of people off yesterday, and they're joining the pile of many websites and newspapers laying people off. But what's interesting is that some of these people are going out and now they want to be like TikTok influencers or something. I'm like, what the hell? So let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture, news, views, and rants, guys. Wall Street Journal laying people off. This is coming from, let's see here, the Daily Beast, I think. The layoffs came after months of cuts impacted the social media and video desks. So they had a deal with Google, and they were going to make news content, and that fell through. And then Google actually laid a bunch of people off too. So this is really interesting. So these mainstream media outlets were actually going to work with social media platforms like Google to push mainstream media probably to the top of the search results, right? But then that all fell through. Where does that leave individual YouTubers? I don't know. Staffers at the Wall Street Journal were hit by another round of layoffs on Wednesday, according to the article. Multiple sources confirmed to the Beast, with employees on the video and social media desks most impacted. The total number of affected employees was not made immediately clear. Some of the video staffers laid off include those in the journal's Journalists as Creators program. That's interesting. A partnership with Google to develop YouTube channels centered around individual journalists and subject matter. Staffers were told that the agreement was not renewed and the funding for those staffers had lapsed, Journal staffer told the Daily Beast. Neither the Journal nor Google immediately responded to requests for comment. I didn't know that they were doing this. So is that what they're doing to try to compete with individual news commentators on YouTube, like the Tim Pools and stuff? They're just kind of creating their own. Because I remember back in the day, like in the nerd space, it was Nerdist and CBR and like all these news outlets that had their own YouTube channels. And they were the ones that always shot to the top of the search results. Like their YouTube channels were pretty big. IGN, actually, their channel is still fairly big, I guess. But then individual commentators kind of ate into that and they kind of took their lunch, really. And that kind of led to the demise of a lot of these websites because people just started watching YouTube videos and listening to podcasts. But yeah, they're saying that they were going to push their journalists as individual creators. So this kind of is what I think G4 TV should have done. I think they should have, instead of trying to come back as some big like gaming channel or esports thing or whatever, they should have been like, hey, yeah, why don't you guys all go out and start your own YouTube channels? And if you get big, you can join, G4 TV or whatever. That's weird. Neither the Journal or Google responded for requests for comment. The Rupert Murdoch-owned paper has faced cuts since editor-in-chief Emma Tucker took over last year. Often in a piecemeal fashion, the paper let go of nearly 20 staffers in Washington, D.C. in February, including a newsroom shakeup that included Pulitzer Prize winner Brody Mullins. Okay. The newspaper has since laid off various foreign correspondents and standards and ethics editors in recent months, including veteran editor Christine Glancy and two-time Pulitzer Prize finalists Dion Niesenbaum. They don't care. They don't care if you've got a Pulitzer Prize. They don't care if you've got a Nobel Prize. The only prize they care about is ad revenue. Like, if you're not bringing ad revenue, they don't give a shit. That's the truth. The truth is they don't care unless you're making them money. Especially because this is owned by Rupert Murdoch, right? So yeah, he doesn't care unless you're making them money. Tucker spent the early months of her tenure launching a content review, which resulted in top editors eventually departing the paper or switching roles. That included the move of then Washington Bureau Chief Paul Beckett to a new role dedicated to securing reporter Evan Gershkovitz's removal from Russia. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. But what stuck out to me was this whole thing that they were pushing journalists as content creators, and they were actually working with Google as part of that. And then they canceled that program. So this is Yati Sangvi, I don't know, social media editor at Wall Street Journal, was laid off. She worked with the off-platform team to manage the journal's social media presence on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok and Instagram. So they laid off the social media manager. Maybe they're sticking to news, sticking to the website, sticking to print instead of trying to go out and become content creators. That's weird that they're doing that, because that's usually where everything is kind of pivoting to, right? So this is actually coming from Fortune. And I thought it kind of, and this was like the day before they laid these people off, by the way. Tech layoffs push part-time content creators into becoming full-time influencers, but it's not easy. You have to be ready to fail, ready to not make a lot of money. I'll tell you the truth. That's kind of what happened to us. Like, we fell backwards into YouTube. It wasn't really planned. We kind of fell backwards into it because we were kind of playing around with it and we were doing okay. And then our business partner tried to steal our website. Well, actually, she did steal our website, and then we sued her and we won. But that's a whole nother story. But yeah, so we're kind of like, well, we're already kind of doing this YouTube thing on the side. Maybe we could ramp up the content a little bit and ramp up our own website a little bit, and maybe we'll see where it goes. And yeah, so we were able to pull it off. Thank you very much for watching. But yeah, not everybody's so lucky. This is Grace Zhu told her roughly 300,000 TikTok followers she was about to be laid off. Well, don't say you're going to get laid off or that your job sucks on TikTok, because you probably will get fired. That's okay. She was planning to pursue a different career anyway. She's going to be a content creator. I guess the decision has been made on my behalf. The universe has spoken. That actually does happen sometimes. I tell people sometimes if you're at a crossroads in life, sometimes if you don't make a decision, the decision will be made for you. And sometimes it's not the ideal decision. I'm just saying. So by all accounts, the U.S. job market is holding strong. Now, here's where it's interesting. The U.S. job market is holding strong. Employers are adding 303,000 workers to their payrolls in March. The jobless rate is below 4% for 26 straight months. That's of little comfort to the thousands of people who have nonetheless found themselves out of work, most of them in tech and journalism and video games. What is going on? Well, I have a theory, and the theory is a lot of the wrong people were hired. These companies hired way too many people during the pandemic especially, but they also hired the wrong people. They hired people that really don't bring any value to the company. Just because you're the chief vibe officer, just because you're a lot of fun at the 3-hour lunch, the 3-hour catered lunch, doesn't mean that you really bring a lot to the company. So I think they actually hired a lot of people that wound up being pretty useless. So at the very least, a lot of these people were useless, I think. And at the very worst, a lot of them were activists, and they were actually actively costing their company money, resources, time, goodwill, you name it. They were not there to actually work and make the company money. They were there to spout off about their political hot takes, and a lot of times they'd go out to social media and spout off about their political hot takes, and people didn't want to hear it. Rather than trying to return to traditional employment, people like 26-year-old, I think it's Zhu, are carving a new path for themselves through online content creation. Foot pics. No, I don't know, where they can make money from brand deals and advertising by producing social media videos. I think most employees look at employers now and no longer think they're going to find permanent security in a job. Well, that's actually true. This is somebody at Penn State. I think it makes it less risky to do something like go be a content creator because employment with a traditional employer is so much riskier. Is it? I don't know if they're pulling the plug on so many. I mean, you look at all these social media apps and you look at the monetization. I'll tell you right now, as a YouTuber, this isn't the only thing we do, but like it's up in the air. Like everything's up in the air, especially, going back to websites and stuff. Like the monetization's up in the air. TikTok, it was terrible. They had this huge pool of money and people thought they were going to make all this money every month. And then they decided to just change the rules and people weren't making money anymore. The only people that they're giving money to now, as I understand it, are people making like 10-minute content and not the 30-second dances. In an estimated $250 billion industry, only 4% of content creators make a six-figure salary. Considered by creators to be one of the more, they said YouTube, considered by creators to be one of the more lucrative platforms, has more than 3 million channels. In the partner program, a spokesperson said the platform paid out more than $70 billion in the last 3 years, probably $60 billion of that just to Mr. Beast. TikTok, which faces the threat of a national ban and could cost many content creators a creator stream, has seen growth in user monetization. I wouldn't put my eggs into TikTok's basket. I don't know what's going to happen. The pandemic reshaped how employees consider work, with many preferring to have more control over their schedules and the ability to do their jobs from home. Could this be related to the people that are getting laid off, like the social media manager, the chief vibe officer, the person in charge of the TikTok or whatever? You know what I'm saying? Wow, I don't know. And they're talking about Patreon. I wouldn't put your eggs in Patreon's basket either. With the job market improving, people said they see the appeal of returning to a stable income. Maternity leave at a corporate job also has a pull. She and her husband, this is Cynthia Huang Wang, started her hand in full-time content creation, and then she had to go back to the workforce. Because it's not stable. It's not a stable gig. Like, I don't know. Everybody looks at this content creation thing, and they're like, that's it. That's the ticket. That's how I'm going to get rich. I'm like, yeah, but you know what? It's really dicey. Like, some months are really dicey. Things are up and down. The ad rates are up and down. It's not stable. People get tired of your content. I mean, it happens. Even the big YouTubers, it happens. People get tired of you and they go watch something else, or the algorithm changes. What is this? Meet a Missouri dad who went from full on bigot to fighting bathroom bans? Oh boy. I thought that was Gary from Nerdrotic at first. I thought it looked like him at first. I was like, wait, he's not from Missouri. Anyway, I don't know, guys. This is a really dicey industry to be in. I guess content creation is probably more stable than journalism right now, but it's all kind of the same thing when you think about it. But I just thought it was really interesting that they were going to push their people on YouTube, and it did not work out for them. I'm going to wrap it up. Please subscribe. We'll talk later.